Okay, right. Are we back? Alright, let's check, make sure we're back. We are under safety car. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. Everyone has made a pit stop under the safety car. Gakowski leading the way, Ivan in second, Tony Riche in third with Julian in fourth. The stream is better. Oh, thank God. I appreciate that, Finley. I appreciate that. Right. Julian in fourth, Oronka in fifth with Imwa in sixth, Nico in seventh with Andrea in eighth, Nissan in ninth, and then of course we got Moostic rounding out the top 10. Jerem in 11th, Gaitans in 12th, Paul Power in 13th, and of course Kevin's in 14th. There has been a few penalties that have come through while we were trying to get the stream and everything back up and running. I wasn't able to see what went on that caused the safety car, but there has been a bit of a change to the order, and of course lap 13 of 22, Gakowski leads away but has a penalty to his name. Yeah, I'm not sure what went on with the Elgato there. Basically it just completely went. Like, I literally had to unplug everything and then plug it all back in. Like, it literally completely went. But Tony Riche able to get the job done on Ivan. Back up in the P2 now, goes the TF10 driver. Now he can begin his chase after the CPI man, who is currently leading the way. Oronka there in P4, trying to go into the back of Ivan. Also trying to use those medium tyres to good effect here. As he closes up underneath the hairpin and gets decent traction on the exit, as Nico able to get through on Julian there in behind for P5. And of course Julian on the set of those hard tyres might begin to struggle with all these fresh medium runners in behind. And was that a little tap at the rear Julian received there from Andrea? I'm not sure, but Andrea gets back through on Nissan, but Julian losing an awful lot of time there. Big lockup on the tyres for Julian, but he is still in P8 for the time being, and Tony Riche all over the back of Gakowski now for the race lead. And this is where we are going to stay on board right now as they come through turn number 3 and 4 in towards turn number 5. Jerome picks up a 3-second time penalty as Tony Riche now with DRS. He has it wide open. The closing speed is going to be enough for Tony Riche to take the race lead out on track, and it is a good day if you are TF10 and if you are Tony Riche. Apparently the stream looking all good now and a lot smoother. Thanks for that. Apologies guys if you can tell that my voice is a little bit off tonight. Likewise I am also a little bit under the weather, but I'm on the recovery end of it, so that's why I'm able to stream here tonight, even though OBS and Elgato did not want me to stream moments ago, but we will soldier on regardless. Ivan there picking up a 3-second time penalty there, running wide out of turn 14, and Oronka can now just sit on the back of him and jump him on penalties. But you know Oronka, he's going to want to get that move done on track so he can try to get onto the back of Gakowski if possible. Tony Riche though in the race lead, pulling away as there goes Oronka down the inside in towards turn number 1. Runs a little bit deep but able to get that position. Good move there for Oronka. Ivan going to have to settle down for P4 for the time being. Lap 15 of 22. Tony Riche leads the way. Gakowski in second, Oronka in third, Ivan in fourth, Nico in fifth. Under pressure here from Andrea with DRS wide open. Job done for Andrea down the inside, and yet nothing that Nico can do about that. DRS in towards turn number 7 is always going to be Andrea's corner there on the inside line. Nissan in a bit of no man's land in P7. Julian also in a bit of no man's land in P8. Kevin's good recovery after the early instance he's had. He's gone up into P9. Paul Parra there in P10, but he has a penalty to his name as Nico's actually just got back through on Andrea once again. But what I was going to say, Paul Parra with a penalty to his name, and that is pretty much now going to put him under pressure by Gaitans, who is only 1.6 off the back, 1.7 now. So he has an opportunity of jumping ahead of Paul Parra here in this race. Gatkowski doing a very good job in sticking with Tony Rees here as he's setting fastest lap after fastest lap. Lap 16 of 22. TF10 leading the way ahead of CPI there in second place. And then of course in third, we have the... I'm trying to see what logo that is. Andrea there in third. But look at this, Gatkowski looks down the inside of Tony Rees in towards turn number 8. They're side by side now coming through turn number 9 as we got a beautiful helicopter camera angle as both of them making a bit of wheel to wheel contact with each other, and Tony Rees backs out of it, realizes he hasn't got to fight as much. He can just sit in behind Gatkowski and of course take advantage of that time penalty that Gatkowski has to his name. Of course, all these penalties and most of them accumulated while we was off stream sorting out all the tech issues, and of course we did have a safety car which was brought out just as we was getting sorted again, but I'm not sure what caused it, as not only did the Elgato break down, but also it meant that I wasn't able to see anything that was going on in the race because I had the blue screen on my police station as well. But Tony Rees is just going to sit in behind Gatkowski and overtake him again with DRS. But Oronka now has joined this fight. He is now in P3. I'm going to be looking to try and get up a position with Gatkowski's penalty as Kevin's picks up a 3-second time penalty. Not ideal if you are TF10 Kevin's in this race. Look at this as we're on board with Oronka, looking at the battle between Gatkowski and Tony Rees. Tony Rees with a lovely little switchback, but unable to get the traction, takes a little bit too much of that inside curve and settles the car, and Tony Rees has to settle down for P2, but has another little peek down the around the outside, then turn, switch back to the inside, and Tony Rees is trying absolutely everything right here to get the move done on Gatkowski. He sends one down the inside at the hairpin, and a little bit of ghost in there from Tony Rees, and he has actually been able to pull it off as here comes Oronka now, and Oronka is just going to sit in behind, not going to force the issue for Gatkowski here. As Nissan there picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits as well. In terms of the battle to keep an eye on is definitely this one right here for the race win, and essentially for the podium positions, as these three are fighting it out. Gatkowski at a disadvantage due to that penalty, but I mean, if he gets his elbows out enough, maybe he could force one of the other drivers into a mistake and maybe hold on to a P2 in this race. And let's not forget as well, of course, the medium tyres on both Tony Rees and Oronka's car, 7 laps old. They're not going to have a huge amount of life left in them in terms of the relative speed of the mediums. As Gatkowski holding it on the inside through turn 8. He's going to have the outside for turn number 9. Not ideal if you're Gatkowski, but a little bit of contact with the wall for Gatkowski, and that's going to destroy his momentum, and that's going to allow Oronka to get through. And Oronka now up into P2 on track, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, Oronka doing his absolute best to try and take a race win here. Lap 18 of 22. Tony Rees leading the way ahead of Oronka there in second place. Gatkowski there in third. But that time penalty is going to be difficult for Gatkowski to come back into this. And it's just going to be about damage limitation for Gakowski now, as I believe, looking at the gaps, he might fall behind Andrea right now. If my master's correct, he could potentially lose the podium, so he doesn't really want to be forfeiting much time in terms of battling. He kind of hopes that these guys in behind begin to battle, and they are battling with Ivan and Nico, both equal on penalties to my knowledge, and they of course have Andrea there in P6, who is sniffing a podium here at the end of this race. But Tony Reich is the race leader, and in terms of the ERS, Oronka has the ERS advantage, so advantage to Oronka in this race at this moment in time. But Tony Reich is such a fantastic driver, it's going to be very difficult to displace him from that race lead. Gakowski knows full well he needs the guys in behind to begin the battle, slow themselves up, and he needs to hope that any battling going on ahead of him does not cost him time, because he is under threat right now from Andrea in 6th place. Speaking of Andrea, as we go on board with him, as he's closing up to Nico and Ivan there in the battle for P4. Andrea though has his sights set a few positions higher, as he's possibly looking at a podium in this race. The gap is around about 2.7 seconds between Gakowski and Andrea, as here goes Andrea now with DRS down the inside on Nico. Job done for Andrea. Up in the P5 he goes, and he will be able to use DRS again, but will he be able to be close enough to have a little look down in towards turn number 7? Big snap of the rear there for Andrea, so not ideal for him. As Oronka there closing in on Tony Reich, but not close enough to make a move, as Jem picks up a 3-second time penalty as well in behind down towards the back of the field. He's going for the fastest lap, same with Imwa for VMV, as Oronka putting the pressure on Tony Reich. Gakowski, it's damage limitation for him. He's just about 2.5 seconds ahead of Andrea here, and as we're on lap 20 of 22, about to come on to lap 21 momentarily. There'll be 2 more racing laps here for Gakowski to try and build enough of a gap, and right now he has enough of a gap. He is around about 3.2 now ahead of Andrea. Andrea losing a bit of time, so possibly a little bit of a mistake in the hairpin, a little bit of wheel spin, possibly losing Andrea there a few tenths or a second, as he is now just about within DRS range, about within the penalty range, and he just falls out of it once again down the start finish straight. And ladies and gentlemen, Bogakowski and of course CPI, they really want to get a podium here tonight, but Tony Reich Oronga is honestly going to be making that difficult for Gakowski, who's going to try around the outside of Oronga, and he actually gets the move done. And I'm not sure there was a bit of contact there, because Oronga completely came to a stop on the exit of turn 7, and he's just been overtaken by Ivan, and Ivan tried to hold it around the outside, but down the inside goes Oronga, and that's going to allow Andrea through as well. So now Andrea goes from a possible P3 to potentially a P2 if they can get back within 3 seconds of Gakowski, and if they are able to, and if he's able to get ahead of Oronka in this race. So Andrea now from a possible P3 to a possible P2 in this race. It all depends on the pace right now. On Oronka not really closing in on Gakowski. Gakowski is closing in on Tony Arisha, as we're about to head on to the final lap here in Singapore for race number 1 in the Esports Masters League Challenge Cup. Tony Reich gets us underway for the final lap of the race, running down in towards turn number 1, as the gap between Gakowski and Oronka 3.2 seconds the gap, 3.1 the gap now, as we are about to head on to the DRS straight. The long DRS straight down in towards turn 7 for the final time. Here goes Gakowski. Gonna look to the inside, but no, can't get through there. Tony Reich covers the inside, but runs very deep through turn 7, does Tony Reich. And Gakowski there is going to hold Stern in P2. And look at that gap, 3.2 seconds the gap. And if there was any wing damage picked up on Gakowski's car, oh, Gakowski's around. Gakowski there with a big moment. I'm not sure, did he? Oh, Gakowski does have wing damage here. The front left end plate is gone. Oronka up into P2. Andrea now with a golden opportunity to get P3 in this race. As, yeah, in the chat right there, obviously Tony Reich completely missing the corner, out braking himself as Nico's out of this race, running deep in towards turn 14. But we're going to go up towards the front right. Oh, actually, okay, it got a little bit scrappy towards the end, but we're going to go on board with Tony Reich as he comes through the final corner to take victory here in Singapore. Oronka there in second place. Andrea will come home to collect that final spot on the podium. Ivan P4, Gakowski there in P5. Kevin's good recovery for him up into P6. Julian in P7. Nissan in P8. Paul Parra in P9. Mustik rounding out the top 10. And he will be crossing the start finish line in just a moment's time. And yeah, I mean, both fully missing the corner, as Dirk said in chat, and yeah, absolutely, both of them did miss the corner. I'm not too sure what to make of that one. I feel that the stewards may have some words on that particular battle and everything post race, but as it stands, Tony Reich is the race winner here for race number 1 at Singapore here in round 4 of the Challenge Cup in Esports Masters League. So hopefully we will be able to get the actual standings up this time. Well, the race results, because we weren't able to get the qualifying results up. The game said a hard no on that one. But Tony Reich, top step of the podium. Oronka there in second place with Andrea in the final podium position. And honestly, in terms of how it was all looking, Tony Reich also picks up the fastest lap and the pole position as well. But that's when you put the order. It's Tony Reich with the race winner. Oronka in second place. Andrea in third. Ivan there in fourth with Gakowski in fifth. Kevin's there in sixth place with Julian in seventh. Nissan there in 8th place with Paul Parra in 9th. Rounding out the top 10 is QSL Mustik in 10th place. 11th is Gaitan there for GT10. Imwa for VMV in 12th. Durham there in 13th now. Only DNF in that race. Still gets classified though is EVE Nico. But yeah, the only man to not see the checkered flag. However, he did do enough laps to be classified in the end. Guys, we will be back after a short intermission as we are going to head on over to the second lobby. Guys, we will be right back in just a moment's time. And thank you for bearing with us while we had the technical issues here in race number 1. Hopefully race 2 will go along much better and much more swimmingly than race number 1. I will be back in just a moment, guys. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we are about to get into race number 2 here tonight, looking at the lobby for the second race of the evening. Of course, we got Giuseppe there for of course TFG, Ismail in for EVE, of course CPI. We have Finley in. False group, we have Brendan. Deluxe, we have Imamola, Molina. Sorry, my eyesight's are starting to go. I'm not gonna lie. Molina there in for DLX. Mustek, of course, was racing in lobby 1. I believe there was a complete switch around on the lineups between those two right there, and it is going to be QSL lower that is going to be here for lobby number 2. Of course, for I believe, looking at the graphic there, who is that? Is that I believe that is Sierra Esports. We have Geegan there in the Aston Martin. Of course, GT10. We have Duncan in. Aronka was, of course, in lobby 1. So again, there was a change there, as I believe Aronka just did a complete swap as well with, I believe, a swap with whoever was in for lobby 1 originally. XPG is in as well in the Williams. Of course, Agonize in for FRT as well. TF10 is going to have Thomas still. Oh, this is gonna absolutely be butchered. I do apologize as well if I absolutely butcher your name by you. Thomas said Torilla, and that is probably as close as I'm ever gonna get to actually being able to pronounce the name in full. Mafio in for EVR, and then of course we got Myth Shadow in the kick sober right there, and of course we got Shanks there for FRC, and then of course VVM Visa there in the Haas. We are about to get underway here in qualifying, so we're going to head on over to the track and get ourselves in a lovely mood to, of course, go ahead and get acquainted once again with the Singapore circuit. Ella first name. Okay, Ella Molina, is it? Oh, okay, yeah, right. I'll just say Elia then for Tomasetto. Okay. But yeah, Dirk, you know what it's like with me and pronunciations, and it never works well. But we are on board with. Actually, who should we jump on board with? We're currently on board with Shanks, but let's go on board with. Let's go on board with CPI Finley here as he comes through turn number 3. Of course, Gakowski having a lot of issues at the end of that race. Finley going to be looking to get some big points on the board for CPI. Currently, Agonized though is ahead of him, which is not ideal if you are CPI Finley. And Finley 26 flat in the first sector. We come through turn 7 now in towards turn number 8. Big lock up at the rear as drifting the car through turn number 8 as we head in towards turn number 9 now. Finley holding on to P5 though at the time of being as we head down into the old Singapore sling as we go through over the bridge, and of course heading now towards the hairpin third gear, the gear of choice there for Finley, currently in 4th place as he's just nipped ahead of Agonizer on the traction as he runs down in towards turn number 14. Finley though, up in the P2. Is he going to be able to displace Ilya? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Ilya is still leading the way as Finley though coming through. 16 17, big snap on the curb, and that's allowed Agonize to get through up in the P2. But across the line, Finley's going to retake P2. But Ilya absolutely dominating here in qualifying. 6/10 of a second is the gap between Ilya and of course Finley in second place. What a lap from Ilya. Well, there we go, guys. Running through the qualifying order as we actually are able to do it this time. Is Tomasetto Ilya there on pole position with a 25.5, 6 clear of Finley in second place. Agonize there in third with Diamond Miner in fourth. Duncan there in fifth with Shanks in sixth. Ismail in seventh with Geegan in eighth. Rizzle in ninth, and of course Molina in 10th, and then of course we got Lloyd in 11th, Domsey in 12th, Mafio in 13th, and of course Myth Shadow going to be starting from the back in 14th position. And given how dominating Tomasetto was in qualifying, very difficult to knock back Tomasetto to take the race win. Could we see back-to-back TF10 victory here at Singapore, which really would help them massively in terms of closing that gap on the likes of FRT and CPI as they look to try and get themselves into the championship battle if possible. We're going to have to wait and see though if they are going to be able to get into that battle. Of course, Tony Reich took victory in the first race. In fact, it was a clean sweep in the first race for Tony Reich with the fastest lap as well as pole position and the race win. The perfect race for Tony Reich in the first race, and Tomasetto Ilya is going to be looking to replicate that here tonight. One part of it already done, 6/10 of a second, the gap between Tomasetto Ilya and of course CPI Finley, and that is a monstrous gap in qualifying around here. So the work is going to be cut out for all of the drivers to try and match the TF10 driver here tonight in race 2. Of course, the track a lot drier than what it was in race number 1. No rain droplets down early on, no treacherous conditions to get us underway. It's just going to be strictly who's got the best traction off the line and who's going to have the best race strategy, and that is what it's all going to come down to. As we await the drivers to make sure the setups are good and ready to go. Of course, guys, I want to get your predictions in the chat right now. Who is going to be taking the race win here in race 2 at Singapore for round number 4 of the Esports Masters League Challenge Cup? Of course, pole position was taken by the TF10 driver Tomasetto Ilya, and Tomasetto was able to have that pole position by 6/10 of a second. But it's one thing to do it in qualifying, it's a whole nother thing to do it in the race. But guys, get your predictions in the chat right now for your podium predictions. Let me know, and we will see if they come true. And of course, let me know if the stream starts to go a little bit buggy again. Let me know if that does happen. Hopefully it won't though, and hopefully we will be all sorted. So you're gonna have to bear with me 2 seconds while I mute up. Apologies for that. I had to clear my throat. I had to clear my throat a little bit. I hope ERS wins, but I think CPI. Okay, Michael is saying hope ERS wins, but he thinks CPI is going to be winning this one. Of course, Finley is definitely going to be looking to try and get himself up on the top step of the podium as best as possible. Gakowski, of course, in an incident with Tony Arish from the looks of things. And we're going to go to the 5 red lights to get underway here in race number 2, as the 5 red lights are out, and it's going to be a great start there for Tomasetto and Finley, getting off the line absolutely fantastically. Agonized there, holding on as we got side-by-side action between Diamond Miner and Shanks, and Diamond Miner able to get up into P5 right there. So Diamond Miner goes up a position off the start as Shanks has Ismail around the outside of turn number 5, and Ismail is going to have the straight line speed to draw alongside him. Will draw just about ahead, heading down in towards turn number 7, inside line. Job done. Oh, back end, stepping out on Ismail though, and that is going to allow Shanks back down the inside in towards turn number 8. But fortunately for the pair of them, Ismail was still ghosting, so he was able to make it work and hold on to that position. Meanwhile, in the background, you're seeing Melina and Domsey side by side heading down in towards turn number 10, and of course through the Singapore sling as we head back up towards the front, as Tomasetto pulling a gap, but not pulling enough of a gap. And in fact, in terms of the ERS, it looks like Tomasetto has been using a bit of ERS, because we had the flashing red light earlier, meaning that deployment is very low for Tomasetto here on the opening lap. But it looks like Finley is matching Tomasetto in terms of the ERS usage here, as we are about to head on to lap 2 of 22. Tomasetto leads the way. CPI Finley in second place. Agonized there in third, with Duncan in fourth. Diamond Miner there in fifth place. Ismail in sixth. And then of course we've got Shanks in seventh. Gigan there holding on position in eighth place. Rizzo in ninth. And of course Mafio on a set of the hard compound tyres up in the P10. As we just come on board with Domsey there again, all out of shape, and I think that's going to be wing damage for the Mercedes as well, as we've just seen Gigan there getting through on Shanks up in the P7 goes Gigan now, and Gigan now can try and close up to Ismail if he at all possible, as Domsey out of this race, and that's triggered a virtual safety car here on lap 2. Domsey did not look comfortable at all. Especially coming onto that straight there, weaving left and right. Definitely no grip whatsoever for Domsey. And the virtual car conditions now, everyone's sticking to a delta, making sure they don't exceed that delta. If they do, they'll get a hefty penalty that will take them out of the race, unless there's a safety car to bring them back into it, as everyone will be looking to time the restart as best as they can. Finley needs a good restart here to stay on the back of Tomasetto, as Agonize is also going to need a good restart here to stay on these two as well. As it looks like Shanks into the pit lane, and Molina there with a drive through for speeding under virtual safety car. As I mentioned, a hefty penalty if you don't stick to the delta. Molina though does fall victim to that, and the virtual safety car is still out, so it was a bit of a careless drive through penalty for Molina there, and that is not ideal. And that is a second drive through penalty for Ima Molina, as we are back to green flag racing. Lowered gets through up into P10, lowering Molina's position down to 11th place, and Molina is going to have a very long and lonely race at the back with 2 drive-through penalties to her name, or his name. But Tomasetto still leading the way ahead of Finley. Finley doing everything he can to try and stick with Tomasetto. DRS is enabled, it is activated, so that's going to help Finley to stay on the back of the TF10 driver. CPI looks to try and take race victory here in race number 2, as TF10 tried to make it a back-to-back race victory here at Singapore for their team. Agonize right there in P3, looking to try to capitalise and try to get himself up a fair few positions if possible. Duncan there holding on to the back of them. He's in P4 with Diamond Miner in P5. Ismail though just outside the DRS range. He's in P6. Needs to use a bit of that ERS to try to get back within DRS range, and he is going to use a bit of ERS, but everyone's going to be able to pull away as Finley not going to be close enough to make a move this time in towards turn number 7, but close right up underneath the rear wing of Tomasetto. Lap 4 of 22. Tomasetto leads away. CPI Finley in second place. Agonize there in third. Duncan in fourth. Diamond Miner in fifth. And Ismail losing now time by not being in the DRS train. He definitely needs to start using that ERS in areas where he can try to close up as best as he can, because he needs that DRS to stay with these guys, otherwise he's just going to have a bit of a lonely race in P6. And that is not ideal if you are Ismail. Razor though sticking on to the back of Geekin here for P7. Not going to be close enough to make a move in towards turn number 1, but maybe on the run down in towards turn number 7 he could get close enough. Mafio all out of shape coming through the final corner. Mafio very fortunate to hold the car there as we just cut on board to the end of that big snap that he just had, and Mafio having to take a little bit of an alternative line through 2 and 3, where of course he got onto the curb. But Mafio now underneath the rear wing, Razor underneath the rear wing of Geegan, as Geegan is going to have to fend off Rizzo with DRS, as Geegan holds position for the time being up at the front. Finley gets close but not close enough in towards turn number 7. He's going to sit behind Tomasetto again for another lap here at Singapore, as Tomasetto really is showing the pace. In terms of the ERS, is only about an 8% difference in favour of Finley, and Finley using a bit of ERS now with the DRS to close right up to Tomasetto as we go through turn number 14 here, and Tomasetto able to hold on to the race lead, keeping that gap around half a second. Agonize is just there waiting, ready to pounce on a mistake, and in terms of a mistake, he's not seen a mistake as of yet out of Finley that he's been able to capitalise on. So right now everything stays as it is. Oh, big snap for Gigan coming out of the final corner. That's going to allow Rizzo down the inside. Job done for VMV. Up into P7 goes Rizzo, and he gets through on Geegan there for P7. Back up to the front though is Finley, going to be close enough to make a move, but he's also got Agonize closing in behind as well. Agonize again within 0.2 of a second, but not close enough to go for a lunge down the inside. And we're seeing Finley just clipping in some of these curves just a little bit too much, and it's just costing him a little bit of time here and there as we went through turns 8 and 9, and of course now through 10, 11, and of course over the bridge through 12 in towards turn 13 at the hairpin. All going to be about traction coming out of this corner here, and it looks like Finley does have good traction coming out of this corner. He's not going to be close enough to put in a challenge to Tomasetto for the race lead, but it's going to be enough to fend off Agonized for a little while longer. Agonize is going to be looking to try to get through on Finley when the moment is right. Duncan doing well, sticking with these guys up in the top 3. He's holding on to DRS. One man though has dropped out of DRS, and that's Diamond Miner, who is now over a second off the back of Duncan. And Ismail, because he did not have DRS, he is now 2.9 seconds off the back of Diamond Miner. Diamond Miner no longer has DRS either, so he's going to struggle, as Ismail picks up a 3-second time penalty, the first one of this particular session. as now we're going to see Finley. He should be close enough with a dab of ERS, but he's not using his ERS, and Agonize not able to get close enough to make a move either, so everything stays as it is in the top 3. But Agonize, I think, is going to try to get a move done ASAP. In fact, there's a bit of ghosting going on, as I think Finley might have lost the back end coming out of turn 8, and that's allowed Agonize the run that he needs to get the move done through obviously the ghosting method. And of course Finley making a mistake there has allowed Agonize through up into P2, which is huge in terms of FRT versus CPI here. Remember, at the start of this week's racing, it was 4 points separating Future Racing Team and CPI Esports, and those 4 points, I mean, it's so tight between those two teams that every position matters to them at the moment. And of course, TF10 able to get the race win and fastest lap and pole position in the first race with Tony Reish, and right now, in terms of the pole position, they have Tomasetto there, who did get pole position and is trying to make it back-to-back wins for TF10, as Finley closing in marginally on Agonize, heading down towards turn 7, not close enough to make a move. Meanwhile, in behind, Gigan has fallen away from Rizzo, and he's been overtaken by Mafio now, so Mafio up in the P8, Gigan there in P9, and of course we got a big gap back to the likes of Lowered in 10th place, Myth Shadow in 11th, Shanks, who has come in and made a pit stop, he's in 12th place, and of course Molina there, who I believe served both of the drive-through penalties and is down there in 13th place. Not ideal for Molina there and DLX, but back up towards the front as we're seeing Finley get close to the back Agonize. Not close enough to make a move though, but he is getting close, as here come the first round of pit stops as Tomasetto and Finley into the pit lane. Going to be chucking on a fresh set of boots at the end of lap 8, going on to lap number 9. There'll definitely be a set of hard compound tyres on for the pair of them, and Tomasetto and Finley. And in fact, I believe for a moment there I thought Finley was able to get the jump on Tomasetto there, but no, Tomasetto able to hold the position ahead of Finley in the pit lane phases. In terms of obviously exiting the pits as well, everyone's got to be really careful to not clip that inside wall as you're exiting the pits. It's so easily done around this circuit, and I mean, I've seen it in the past, and I've also been a victim to it in the past, where you just turn in just a little bit too much or a little bit too early and you clip that inside wall and have a bit of a half spin. So these guys are going to have to make sure that they are giving that wall just a little bit of breathing room, but making sure they're staying within the white lines as well. Agonize leading the way ahead of Duncan there in second place. Diamond Miner with no DRS has fallen over 3 seconds back now from these guys, and that is what happens when you don't have DRS. Ismail now currently up in 4th place, but with that penalty and a pit stop yet to be made, Ismail is going to fall down the order as the top 2 are in, as Diamond Miner continues on for another lap, and Ismail is also into the pit lane. Mafia going to continue on, of course, on the set of the hard compound tyres. It's going to be interesting to see if Mafia is going to have the pace to come at Ismail at the end of this race, because he is going to be able to switch on to a set of mediums, which should be adequate enough to close the gap on the likes of Ismail, especially with Ismail not having any DRS in front of him to help him out here. He's going to have to use the few laps that he has on fresh rubber to his advantage here, as Tomasetto breaks the 1 second to Agonize, but Tomasetto picking up a 3-second time penalty in this race as Finley and Agonize having a bit of a battle down in towards turn number 7. Finley now up into P2, technically a net P1 with the penalty for Tomasetto, but Thomas now with Finley out of that DRS range can maybe push a little bit to try and of course not only break DRS all over again, but also to try and manage this race by building that gap up to 3 seconds if possible. But Finley has done well enough to get DRS on Tomasetto there in the middle sector as we head down in towards turn 14. And Finley, as long as Finley can stay on the DRS range of Tomasetto, Finley can be very pleased because right now he is on for the race win. As Duncan also in this battle as well. He's on the back of Agonize, who's on the back of Finley, and Finley has dropped away outside of a second now on Tomasetto, and Tomasetto through the first couple of corners building a bit of a gap which will keep Finley at bay, may open the door for Agonize though. So we're going to go on board with Agonize as Ismail is into the pits again, and I believe this for a front wing change and a fresh set of medium tyres there for Ismail. Finley though does decent to get back within DRS range of Tomasetto, and Agonize is doing well to stay on the back of Finley, but the issue that Finley is going to have is ERS management. Every single time he's dropped out of DRS range, he has to use some of that battery to get back within it, because he knows that if he doesn't, he may end up losing touch on Tomasetto, and Tomasetto can pull out a 3-second lead, and Tomasetto will be taking the race victory here. As Mafio is into the pit lane, and it was going to be close between Mafio and Ismail by the end of the race, but Ismail having to make another pit stop due to, I believe, a front wing change for Ismail, and that has completely destroyed Ismail's race. He's down there in P12. As Tomasetto with no DRS, not even from the lap car, still over a second ahead of Finley, but this is the part of the track where Finley's been quite strong at, as we got a yellow flag in the middle sector, and that's going to be for, I believe that was for Agonize actually. Yeah, Agonize having a bit of a moment there in the middle sector, and that has lost him DRS range on Finley, so he's going to have to use a bit of battery to get back within DRS range. But as of right now, Tomasetto doing everything right to hold Finley off, but that 3-second time penalty looming over Tomasetto's head means that right now Finley is in the position that all drivers would want to be in. P2, but no penalties versus the race leader that does have a penalty right in front of you, and you can just get towed along with the help of DRS. Of course, you're seeing Finley, he has used a lot of DRS to get himself back well within DRS range, and if Finley wants any hope of winning this race, he's going to have to save a bit of battery here and there. He's going to have to charge it back up. He's currently around about 30%. Meanwhile, Tomasetto there with around about 10 percentage more than Finley. Agonize, obviously no DRS now to help him. He's going to be settling down for a lonely net P3 as it currently stands. Diamond Miner sticking it out there quite long on a set of the mediums, potentially thinking about a medium soft Diamond. So We will see if it works for Diamond. Personally, I think the softs are just going to wear out too quickly for him to really have a huge effect on him when he switches on those tyres at the end of the race. But who knows? I have been proven wrong before, and I am always willing to be proved wrong every single day. As Tomasetto is still able to hold off Finley for the time being. Agonized is in agony right now, as he is literally in a no man's land. 2.2 off the back of Finley, 3.7 ahead of Duncan, as Diamond Miner is into the pit. So that has released the grid now, and Diamond Miner did go for the set of the soft compound tyres. So we're going to see what Diamond Miner can do in this race once the soft tyres switch on and Diamond Miner's up to good temperatures to be racing on those tyres. We're going to see what the Williams man can do. Diamond Miner currently in P5, quite some way off the back of Duncan here, 9.7 seconds, but those soft tyres are fresh and they're going to be able to close in the hard compound tyres. The question will be whether or not Diamond Miner is going to have the pace to close all the way up to these guys, and then is he going to have the tyres at the end of the race to get the positions when they matter most. It's going to be the big question here tonight, guys. Tomasetto still leading the way. Virtual safety car deployed here on lap 14 of 22. Apologies again, I had to mute up my mic as Ismo picks up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. Yeah, sorry, I had to mute my mic up and whilst I was having another coughing fit. But right now, the top two still line astern as they are. It seems like Tomasetto able to get away in the first sector, enough to hold Finley at bay for the time being. Oh, Finley there getting a big snap roller steer, clipping that inside curve through turn 8. Not ideal if you are the CPI man. Using a bit of ERS to get back within a second. Needs to make sure he takes these corners as best as possible, because I think he might just be outside of DRS range now. He is going to be outside of DRS range, and now we're going to see if Tomasetto has the pace to pull away from Finley. Finley is using battery to get himself back within DRS range, so smart from Finley. But is Tomasetto just toying with Finley for the time being? That's the question. Lap 13 of 22. Tomasetto leads the way. Finley in second place. Agonized in third. Duncan in fourth, with Rizzo in fifth. And of course we got Shanks in sixth place. Mafio closing in seventh place on the set of the medium compound tyre. So keep an eye on Mafio. Potentially going to be making some moves up very, very shortly. Time will tell though if Mafio is going to have the pace to maybe get himself up in the position where he could challenge for a podium. It's going to be a big it's going to be a big tall order for him, a big ask, but with DRS he should be able to get past Shanks here pretty easily, and then he'll be automatically on the back of Razor there in P5. And there's a case of in clear air, can Mafio get the job done? Someone who is not getting the job done right now is Tomasetto, who is leading the way, but has picked up another 3-second time penalty, and this now potentially can take Tomasetto off of the podium if Duncan's able to get back within around about 6 seconds of Tomasetto here in the race. I believe at the moment it's around about 7, maybe 8 seconds total the gap between Tomasetto and Duncan. So Duncan's going to have to really focus up if he wants to try and get a podium position out of this. As we are on lap 17 of 22. Finley sitting pretty right now for CPI. CPI look to potentially be taking the race win here in race number 2 at Singapore. Here in League Racing TV in the Esports Masters League Challenge Cup is round number 4 at Singapore. Big rear lock up there for Tomasetto, and that's going to compromise Thomas just a little bit as Finley is closing in. Not going to be close enough to make a move though, but if Finley can get a good launch out of the hairpin, it could potentially have a bit of a lunge down the inside in towards 14, but we know Finley, very smart driver, is not going to be risking anything too reckless as such. Tomasetto still leading the way, penalties to his name, and Finley right now in the net race winning position. The gap between Agonize and Finley though has come down a little bit. So Agonize is trying to close that gap and trying to get back within range, within striking distance of Finley here in this race. Agonize unable to close in. Of course, DRS really helping Finley in terms of making sure that Agonize is not going to be much of a threat. And if I'm Tomasetto right now, I mean, I'm looking at that gap between myself and Duncan first and foremost. I want to make sure that I'm getting a podium at the bare minimum. But you'll also be looking at that gap between Agonize, and seeing Agonize just continue to fall away. 2.6, 2.8 the gap between Agonize and Tomasetto. Tomasetto may be thinking about possibilities of a P2 finish even with the time penalties, and that's going to be interesting to see as we're about to come on to lap 19 of 22. It is Tomasetto who still leads the way ahead of Finley in second place. Third place is of course Agonize. And then of course we got Mafio and Duncan in fourth, Mafio in fifth, Rizzo in sixth, with Shanks in seventh, Gigan there in eighth, lowered in ninth, and of course Diamond Miner in 10th place on a fresh set of the soft compound tyres. So you'd expect Diamond to go onto the back of lowered pretty soon and be able to get that move done, but will he have the tyres at the end of the race to try to hold that position? We don't know yet, but the one thing we do know is that right now is Tomasetto leading the way. CPI Finley getting close once again on the rundown in towards turn 14, but not close enough to go for a move. In terms of where each driver seems to be excelling at, it seems like Tomasetto is excelling at the first sector, which is opening the gap enough that Finley isn't able to do what he wants to do on the rundown in towards turn number 7. At the same time as well in the middle sector and the final sector, it looks like Finley's got a little bit of a nudge on Tomasetto in those two sectors, which is helping Finley massively in terms of not only sticking with Tomasetto but also being able to close in slightly as well. As here comes Finley, no move on for him this time round. Meanwhile, there was a move between Diamond Miner and Loward, as Loward tries to come back at Diamond Miner here, but Diamond Miner able to hold it off for the time being, keeping a hold of P9. Lap 20 of 22 is still Tomasetto ahead of Finley, ahead of Agonized, ahead of Duncan, and now Mafio up in the P5. 12 seconds the gap between Mafio and the top 4. I personally think that's too much of a gap for Mafio to close in, so it might be a case of Mafio taking home P5 in the end. So we have Rizzo and Shanks there in 6th and 7th. Linus Stern in the 2 Hasses, which is quite impressive. We're on the penultimate lap of the race. Tomasetto still leads the way. That time penalty though looming over Tomasetto's head, and Finley right now just having a mature drive towards the end of this race, knowing full well that he doesn't have to overtake Tomasetto. He can jump Tomasetto on penalties, it's fine. But you know Finley, he's going to want to do it out on track. He's not going to want to leave anything to chance. And you never know, maybe those 2 penalties that Tomasetto has made, maybe they may be harsh and potentially looked at by the stewards after this race. Who knows? But right now, Tomasetto doing enough to hold off Finley in the dying stages of this race, as we are about to come on to the final lap in just a moment's time. And it looks like Finley is starting to build the pressure now on Tomasetto here as we come through the chicane towards the final 2 corners of 17 and 18. And we are about to get the final lap underway here in Singapore, as it is Tomasetto leading the way. And of course we've got CPI, Finley in 2nd place. And of course we've got Agonized in 3rd. 4th place goes the way of Duncan for right now. Mafio there in 5th place and has pulled a 4.5 second gap to Visual in 7th, as Shanks in 8th. As we got Tomasetto and Finley side by side on the exit of turn 7. As you got to imagine now that Finley is going to attack. He's going to go for the audacious moves now to try and get this position out on track, to make sure that there is no stone left unturned by CPI here tonight, as Finley all over the rear wing of Tomasetto here for P1 in this race. Last chance opportunities for Finley coming up. No overtake attempt in towards turn 14. Let's look for the better traction, the better exit out of 14 as we run down in towards turn number 16 and 17. So I think it is going to be TF10 second victory, but in terms of second place, it is all up in the air, as we are about to see sorry, not second place, as I don't know why I was saying about second place, but yeah, Agonized comes through in second place, Tomasetto there in 3rd, Duncan in 4th. What I was about to say, what's called, it's all going to be kicking off here for P9 between Diamond Miner and Lowad here for the tail end of the top 10. Mafio comes through in P5, good result there for Mafio. Rizzo going to come through in P6 ahead of Shanks in 7th place. And of course we got Geekin in 8th, who is about to come across the line in just a moment's time. Tomasetto keeps a hold of a podium though, so that's good for Tomasetto. Finley, though, just did exactly what he needed to do for CPI here tonight. Just made sure he stayed on the back of Tomasetto and took the victory via penalties. As Ismail, it's been a race to forget for Ismail, coming through the final couple of corners now. Drive-through penalties, an extra pit stop due to, I believe it was damage for Ismail, as Ismail crosses the line. And that's going to bring an end to the race. 11th place there for Ismail. Not ideal for him, as Mafio gets the in-game driver of the day vote from the in-game fans. But in terms of who I'm going to give my driver of the day to, I'm going to have to give it to Finley in that one. And of course, in the first race as well, I think in terms of my driver of the day in the first race, I'd probably give it to. We'll have a look now in a second. But it is Finley who takes victory ahead of Agonize in second place. Tomasetto in third place. Fourth place goes away on Duncan. Mafio in fifth with Rizzo in sixth. Shanks in seventh with Geekin in eighth. Ninth place goes to Diamond Miner, and of course lower there, rounding out the top 10, outside the top 10. Fastest lap point as well for Ismail in 11th place. Myth Shadow, a lap down in 12th. Ima Molina in 13th, and of course our only non-finisher in this race, Domsey in 14th out of this race. Heartbreak there for Domsey. In terms of who in the first race I would have given my driver of the day to, personally I was going to give it to Aronka, who managed to finish P2 in the other race. In terms of his pace, it was very, very good. So Aronka got the driver of the day for me for race 1, and of course Finley for race number 2. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings an end to the action here in Singapore, as it did get a little bit hectic, it did get a little bit spicy, and of course there will be some question marks going into the next race, that is for sure. But looking at the calendar, is the season finale next week. It is going to be Brazil. We are heading to Sao Paulo for the season finale here in the Challenge Cup. It is still very close between CPI and FRT in terms of the championship. Of course, coming in tonight, there were 4 points separating them. TF10 may look like they might be trying to close in as well in terms of the points and everything. We'll have to wait and see if they are mathematically still going to be able to overturn the points haul that they are down by at the moment. But also on top of that, of course, that is coming next week, round number 5, the season finale at Brazil in the Challenge Cup here in the Esports Masters League. Season 8 of the Esports Masters League. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Of course, Bahrain will be the season opener on the 22nd of January. The longest season in EML history going to be getting underway in the new year. Of course, sign-ups are still open. Make sure you are getting your teams signed up here on console for the Esports Masters League. Of course, we will be starting out in Bahrain, and of course ending the season 12 races in total in Abu Dhabi in middle of April. But guys, I have been Michael Edwards. Apologies for the technical issues that we experienced early on in the stream, and of course obviously my voice not being 100%, and I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I tried my best to make sure that we could bring you the action and make sure that you guys got the stream here tonight. Next week, hopefully myself and James will be back, both feeling 100% again and able to deliver on what should be a very exciting season finale in Brazil. But until then, guys, I have been Michael Edwards, and I'll catch you next week at the season finale in Brazil. Until then, guys, is goodbye from me. Goodbye.